Hello and welcome to a live deprogram with Keri Smith. I am your host, Keri. And let me just check this microphone. Oh, yes, it's the right microphone. Yay. Welcome, welcome. Happy St. Patty's Day. Happy St. Patrick's. I'm so excited. I hope you are too. If you are new here, this is a channel where, well, it started with me talking about becoming deprogrammed from the woke cult, from the social justice cult, which I was in for 20 years, and starting to understand that woke ideology was nothing like liberalism, that it was actually a very illiberal ideology. And over the years, I've been at this for about 7 or 8 years now on different, had a different channel to start. This is my new channel. It's a couple years old. And, but I've been doing this for a while. And you are welcome to hang out with us, figure out what this is about. There's a new phenomenon happening. And a lot of people don't like the phrase. They don't like the name. They want to call it something else. I agree. It's growing on me though. But I'm on the record as saying I thought the phrase was bad tactically. However, it's been growing on me. And the phrase that people are using to describe this new kind of budding ideology online is woke right. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the woke right. I'm going to put right in quotes because I don't think these people accurately reflect the right. In fact, I think a lot of them are paid saboteurs and bots, and the ones who are real are, grifting paid saboteurs, some of them, or just narcissists who want the attention. But unfortunately, there are a lot of real people who are falling into this trap and who are starting to speak this crap. And I've heard from some of you that people in real life, young men in real life, who are falling into this. So I'm going to keep talking about it until it goes away. I want it to go away. We just started to see some defeats of woke ideology on the left, and now this is budding. It's almost as if it's happening on purpose. So woke left has a reason to revive itself from the ashes and say, see, we were right. Like all their crazy boogeymen that they tried to create, and they try to call all Trump supporters Nazis, and they try to call everyone on the right, fascists and all this stuff, and white supremacists, and they lie and they lie and they lie, and they took the meaning out of those words. And now you have some people who actually are those things who are starting to crop up. And it's almost like the woke left can point to these fringe characters and say, see, and not all of them are fringe. Some of them have very large influential platforms. So we're going to talk a little bit about it today, and specifically about the brouhaha, the blow up, the debate that's been raging on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And there's been a debate raging there, same debate as last year, and it's about the phenomenon of some of these woke right characters, these nefarious characters, trying to subvert and pervert the meaning of Christ is King. And I think part of the reason they're doing that is to make people afraid to proclaim it, which some people now are. And as a believer, you shouldn't be afraid to proclaim it. You should just be discerning about why and when and how people are using it. And if they're using it with sincerity, or if they're trying to take the Lord's name in vain, which is one of the worst things they could do. So that's what we're talking about today. And we're going to look at some examples for those of you. I know there are also some skeptics who are like, this isn't really a thing, or it's not how it's, you're just taking one thing out of context. No, it's getting to be pretty frequent. I can't even log into X without seeing all this anti-Jewish crap lately, this Hitler idolizing crap. And I never used to see this on the right. As it's only been the last year that it's been growing. So I'd like for us to nip it in the bud, so it doesn't do to the right what woke ideology did to the left, which is to split everyone apart and drive a wedge into brainwash a bunch of people into some unhealthy, evil, non-conservative ideology, non-Christian ideology. I think the right is a little bit more discerning than the left, current day. I hope that's true. That's what I would like to see happen. Okay. That's what we're talking about today. I just wanted to say hello. But hey, what's up? All Things Theology's here. Hey, K-Dubs. Chris is here. Good to see you. Just taking a look through the chat. I see some familiar faces. I see some mods here. Hey, Therese. She says, I'm all in on the Guinness. Oh, let me show you what I have. I have for the sober folks like me, my husband and I have been sober now 5.5 years, 5 years and some change. Praise God. Praise God. Amen. Never thought that I would be able to say that. Anyway, if you're on the sober wagon like me, they make all kinds of fancy non-alcoholic beers now. So on a special day like today, you can have one and feel like you're part of the party. And the thing is, there's no alcohol in it, but it tastes like a real beer. But because there's no alcohol in it, after one, you're like, it's pretty filling. I think I'm done. And you're like, oh, it didn't get me drunk at all. You just kind of feel like have it like a normal it almost makes you a normal person with the way that normal people drink. Some of you guys know one of my best friends, Mystery Chris, who does a bi-monthly show with me, and he's a normal drinker, and I used to laugh about that with him because back before I quit drinking, we would go out sometimes and I would notice that he would just have like one beer the whole night, and I'm like, what is that? Because I was not a normal drinker and I couldn't understand it. Now I'm like, oh, okay. Wish I could do that. So guys, hey, Theology Mom. She says, I appreciate you speaking out on these issues. Thank you. If you guys have thoughts, I appreciate the encouragement. Some of you get it. You know why I'm talking about it. Others don't get it yet. And maybe it's because you're not an X as much as I am, or you're just not seeing some of this stuff that I'm seeing, and so you don't have reason to be alarmed yet. But I'm telling you, it's sort of like the canary in the coal mine. I am having a lot of flashbacks to when in 2016, when I started talking about woke ideology, 2016, sort of sounding the alarm on that a little bit about my belief system. I was having so many people telling me, oh, it's similar stuff. Oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. This isn't a big deal. Or this is just on the internet. Or this is just at colleges. Like they had a lot of things they were saying at the time to sort of say, you shouldn't be focusing on this social justice ideology. And, it's never going to have major powerful influence or be the ruin of anything. And it was. Flash forward a few years, and it was the ruin, not just of the Democratic Party, but of our country. Almost the ruin of our country, taking us down this deleterious path because of that ideology going unchecked. So I'm not going to sit idly by and watch what appears to be something similar happening on the right. Some bad ideology coming in and trying to corrupt a movement and trying to corrupt people individually and steal their hearts and souls. And I'm not going to just sit by while that happens. If I see something happening that I think is bad or we should be concerned about, I'm going to talk about it. So that's what we're doing. Theology Mom, it is getting alarming. I've been doing lots of teaching about it. And yes, there are parallels. There are some parallels to the woke left. There are, Theology Mom. And also you can talk about, I just had this happen to me on X, which is interesting because this is the woke used to do this all the time. I had someone say, oh, you're equating these two things. You're equating them. It's like, usually when people say that, when you're trying to draw comparisons or look at similarities or contrast things, or usually when they say that, they're trying to get you to stop thinking about it or talking about it at all. They're doing something deceitful, which is to accuse you of making a false equivalency. And it's like, I'm not making a false equivalency. I'm looking at some similarities between these two things that caused me some alarm, right? We saw this from the woke during the COVID years. When people started talking about authoritarianism, this happened to me when I was talking about how they were talking about people were going to have ID bracelets and identification and stuff if they're vaxxed or unvaxxed. And it's like, wait a minute, you're going to like put like ID numbers on us on whether or not we can participate in society. I think there's some some terrible things that have happened in history. Like, we might be heading down some sort of bad path if you start doing this to people. If you tried to look at any similarities to any other types of historical authoritarianism or tyranny, fascism, communism, any of it, they would say, the woke would say, are you saying, remember what they did to Gina Carano? They said, she's saying this is just like the Holocaust, which is not what she was saying. Are you saying that's a false equivalence? You're saying it's just like the Holocaust. I'm not. I'm looking at similarities and differences. It's called compare and contrast. And you need to go back to school if you don't understand the difference between comparing and contrasting something and equating something. An apple is like an orange. They have lots of things in common, but an apple is not an orange. Does that make sense? Okay. Thank you, Theology Mom. Andrew Knapp for the super chat for $2. Thank you, says Jordan B. Peterson was on fire with Candace on X. He nailed it. He did. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I'm going to pull that up because he totally nailed it. He called her out. And I have some thoughts to say about that as a Christian too, because a lot of people were sort of saying, they say to any atheist who happen to speak truth or be able to be discerning and see some truth, and obviously God can use anyone as a believer. We know that's true. And yes, even an atheist can be right about something. And yes, even a non-believer can be right about something. And if an atheist is saying something true, and on the other hand, you've got someone who claims to be Christian who's pushing something that's unchristian and deceitful, I'm still going to validate the thing that is true. God is truth. God is not like what you dress yourself up as and pretend to be or put names on. And that's why there's so many verses in the Bible that say, look at how a person behaves, that say things like, you shall know them by their fruits. All the verses about at the end of days when people will call out, Lord, Lord, didn't we worship and prophesize in your name? And the Lord says, I did not know you. Depart from me. Like it's not about surface stuff and what you say or claim to be. If you are speaking truth, you're speaking truth. If you're speaking lies, you're speaking lies. I'm a believer. So of course I believe in absolute truth. And so Jordan Peterson said some very truthful things. And some people were criticizing him as part of this whole week-long debate that's raging online. All these different figures getting drawn into it. And people were criticizing him and saying, how dare you speak to what scripture says, or, speak to if someone is being a false shepherd or not. Well, because it's blatant, because it's true. So thank you, Andrew. I'm going to pull that up. Super Base gifted 10 memberships. Super Base, you're a little membership fairy. I appreciate you. And also said, happy St. Patty's Day. Okay, 2 quick announcements, and then we're diving right into this topic. If you're in Dripping Springs, Texas, my husband and his violinist, Megan Burson, my husband, Anthony Garcia, they always do a St. Patty's Day show. And this year's no different. And the big St. Patty's Day show is tonight. It's all Irish music. It's like Irish music that only Irish people know. He learned a bunch of songs years ago from this Irishman. And so he will play these songs, and he's played them in Ireland before, and people will be like, how do you know that? It's really good music. So if you're in Dripping Springs, the show's tonight, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then what was the other thing? Oh, this Friday is our first house concert in over a year. And I already emailed those of you who emailed me at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. I already sent you the ticket link. The ticket link is secret because we don't put the ticket link public because it's our home. It's very intimate shows. We do them in our music parlor, and every show is like a different theme and different musicians that my husband will put together for. So we've done like classical piano with an opera singer. We've done Latin music. We've done old school country. And so this one on Friday is going to feature 2 of his friends, 2 really amazing musicians from Lubbock, mandolin one of these guys, he's amazing, plays mandolin and fiddle, and the other guy's a trumpet player. So there's a little bit of this sort of Spanish style old country sound that they do. Think of like Johnny Cash and Ring of Fire at the beginning with the trumpet, like dun, 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 dun. It's like that kind of music. It's so good. It's hard to explain. It's like Spanish meets country, even just classic. It's just great. So Friday night, that's at our home. If you are in the Texas area and want to come, email me at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. Tell me your screen name or something about you so I know who you are in the chat. And I'll give you the ticket link. So that's that. Okay, that's going to be a lot of fun. John, the music parlor sounds so fancy, doesn't it? It is fancy. We have this old house built in 1914, and they had parlors. I like it. I just really, yeah. I like the way we used to live. In some ways, so much fancier. Even if you look at old photos, and people would go out and they would dress up and they would put on a hat and they'd look so nice, and they would there was more effort taken to make things beautiful, to make themselves beautiful, and yeah, they would have space for things like, they didn't have a television, so what are they going to do? They're going to have a music parlor. So that's what we have. Okay. Before government made living so expensive, yes, this is true. Okay. Oh, there was something else I wanted to tell you guys. Oh, just a quick news item that's not related to the main topic today. This is what I wanted to tell you. I don't know if you saw this, but Trump, I was talking with Mike Harlow this morning, and Trump has made some announcement that he's going to try and get rid of the Biden pardons. Did you guys hear this yet? I guess this is sort of close to breaking news. It happened this morning or something. So here's what he's saying. This is just kind of crazy. Let me put this up. It made me pretty excited though, thinking, is this possible? So he says he's going to go after some of Joe Biden's preemptive pardons. You know how Joe Biden preemptively pardoned all of these horrible people, including Anthony Fauci, for any future charges that might come as a result of investigations into what they did, all the dirty stuff they did. He's like, hey, just in case they discover something that Fauci did, I'm going to pardon you now. That shouldn't even be possible, right? I don't think it should be possible. So he pre-pardoned all these horrible people, and Trump says he's going to challenge it because he found out that the pardons were not signed by Joe Biden, that they were signed by an auto pen. And so he says that because they were not signed, hold on, let me find a better article. So because they weren't actually signed by him, they were signed by an auto pen, which is what some people use when they do autographing, like lots of books, like authors will use them and stuff, so that they don't actually have to sit there and with their hand like autograph by hand all the books. They'll have a pen that's like a robot pen, and it knows how to do your signature, and it'll sit there and it'll sign for you. And so Trump's like, you couldn't even sit here at the desk in the White House. You couldn't even sit here in the Oval Office and sign these pardons yourself. So he's sort of saying, well, how do we even know that Biden was with it or capable, or that he knew about these pardons? Or it's not his signature. It's an auto pen. It's a robot. Isn't that funny? Look at this. Here's an article from Vox. Trump claims Biden pardons are void, alleging that they were signed via auto pen. President Donald Trump noted that it is not his decision, but it will be open to a court. He says he's going to have a court decide. President Donald Trump claimed that former President Joe Biden's pardons of lawmakers who served on the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th Capitol riot and others are void, alleging that they had been signed via an auto pen and that Biden did not even know about them. The pardons that this is what he posted on Truth Social, quote, the pardons, he put it in quotes, the pardons that sleepy Joe Biden gave to the unselect committee of political thugs. That's what he calls them. That Joe Biden gave to the unselect committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, all caps, vacant, all caps, and of no further force or effect, all caps, because of the fact that they were done by an auto pen, Trump claimed in a Truth Social post. Quote, in other words, Joe Biden did not sign them. But more importantly, he did not know anything about them! Exclamation point. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He's like, Biden's not even there. So they didn't even bother telling him about these. He continues, he knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime, Trump added. This is incredible. The president continued in his post, therefore, those on the unselect committee, who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in history, of our country, crooked Joe Biden. That's it. I just had to share that with you. It's just so Trump. And let's see. I don't know. I never could have imagined this being an argument that's being made that, hey, it's an auto pen. But at the same time, Joe Biden was not there. We know that. We knew from the beginning he was cognitively impaired. We knew that. The mainstream media lied, and the people who listened to the mainstream media lied. But we'll see what happens. There was one other quick news item I wanted to share, and that was, and I'll probably do a full episode on this later, this opinion piece in the New York Times that's called, here's the headline. This is from yesterday. We were badly misled about the event that changed our lives. And let's see if I can add this to the stage. Yes, here we go. We were badly misled about the event that changed our lives. This is an opinion piece in the New York Times. And several of the people I respect on ye olde Facebook were talking about this article. And they were saying, it's just so typical. We always knew that, and we've talked about this before, that they would eventually, when they started releasing the truth years later, and admitting to the truth years later, that they would always pretend like they didn't know, or they are just now getting new information, or that they were misled. We always knew that they would do it from this place of, if we had only known, and sort of shirking responsibility for their actions. And that's what they're doing. It's the media. It's the filthy corporate propagandist media saying, woe is me. We were misled. Now we're learning, the origins of the virus. We're learning all these different things about the vax. And if only somebody had said something. Well, you guys were busy pushing propaganda, censoring doctors and scientists who disagreed with the narrative. I don't know. It's hard to find forgiveness in my heart for these people, which means I have to work on it. I have to pray about it, because for people that I know personally who went along with all the crap, if I knew you personally, it's different. It's easier to find forgiveness, because you're humanized to me. But for the media, I don't have a lot of that in my heart. I'll be honest. So, trying to play victim now, like, oh, if we had only known. So that's happening. Andrew Knapp for $5 says, telling Jordan B. Peterson to be quiet reminded me of the verse that, quote, if these were quiet, the stones would cry out, end quote, pertinent because the stones represent the Gentiles. Andrew Knapp, you get it. You get it. Thank you for the super chat. Eclectic Company says, if only someone we didn't censor had said something. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to keep that starred so I can look at that later. That makes me laugh. If only somebody we didn't censor. Okay, so let's look at a couple things. There is currently, as I said, online, there is this raging debate happening around the phrase crisis king. And I think I should probably just start with this thread because I created a thread on X because so often I'm seeing actually anti-Semitic, actually racist things in my timeline. And amazingly, not from the woke left, although the woke left says racist things and anti-Semitic things all the time. I'm seeing it now from people who claim to be on the right. I'm seeing it frequently. And a lot of times, if you try to talk about it, if you even say the words racist or anti-Semitic and you're trying to talk about it, they immediately, the woke right people immediately jump into your timeline and say things like, there's no such thing as racist. They say racism is made up. It's not a real thing. Now, keep in mind, they simultaneously believe and will say things against racism against white people. They can see that happening. They do see that. They see how DEI and COT and stuff is racist against white people. It is. And racist against Asians. It is. But they can see that when it's happening against white people, but they somehow are saying otherwise, it's just made up. It's not a real thing. It doesn't happen to anybody but white people. Well, that's pretty funny because that's exactly what the woke left says, except they change the races. I was in the woke left for 20 years. The woke left says racism only exists against quote unquote people of color. They say the only race it can't happen to is white people. But see how they're both similar? Like neither of these perspectives is based in reality. They both have magic rules. Like, oh, it's possible to be bigoted and prejudiced against an entire people group based on their race. But only against this specific race, you know? Like they're like, but only against this race. That's ridiculous. It is possible to be bigoted and prejudiced against an entire people group of any race. And when you set up these imaginary fake rules like they're doing, like the woke left did, and like this new, we're calling it woke right until there's a better phrase that more people are using and identifying it as, until, you know, when they do that, when they say racism only exists against white people or racism only exists against people of color, when they set up these fake rules, they are taking themselves out of reality and they are becoming cult-like. They're becoming cult-like where they're teaching this cult doctrine that has no basis in reality. They're changing the way their cult members and people who listen to them think. Slowly over time, they change the way they think by making certain things off limits. So I used to see woke people all the time who would just repeat like little robots. Racism is prejudice plus power, and it's impossible to be racist against anyone who's a white person because white people hold societal power as a group, and so therefore it's impossible for you. You can be prejudiced against them, but because they have societal power, you can't be racist towards them. Like that, they would just like repeat stuff like that, like cult members. And you're like, okay, can we have a conversation though about like, it's possible that. What about somebody who has power to discriminate, to wield their prejudice against a white person? Could that never happen? No, that can't happen because as a group they have societal power. You know, like they would just repeat it. Well, I'm starting to see the same crap happen over here and what we're calling currently the woke right until a better term emerges. Starting to see the same thing over here where they're like, racism doesn't exist. It's a made up sin. It's something that's made up so that people can perpetuate racism against white people. Yes, they are starting to say these things. You're a traitor to your race if you don't see this. They're telling me that. They're telling me that, oh my goodness, one guy I have to give it up for this guy because at least he was engaging in a very civil way back and forth. But he was telling me that racism only exists against white people. And get this, he was saying white people or heritage Americans, that's what they're calling themselves now, because it sounds fancier. Just like the woke left cult was always coining new phrases and terms that would catch on in popularity. And you would start to see these new phrases and terms everywhere, right? Like people of color or whatever. So a BIPOC. So these woke right people, a lot of them now in their bios, they all almost, it seems like overnight if you weren't paying attention, but if you go to their bios and look, 9 times out of 10, they now have heritage American in their bio. What does that mean? It means white person. It's like heritage Americans, like the BIPOC but for woke right. It's like it's this identity marker that they're putting in there that makes it sound fancy and I'm a heritage American. And so this guy was telling me in sincerity and not being rude like most of them are, but I just was asking him some questions about what he thinks, and he said he believes that racism only happens against white people and that white people, heritage Americans, deserve reparations. He was making an argument for reparations because our future that was promised to us, he says, that founding Americans promised for their posterity. They love the word posterity. Their posterity meaning what they leave behind, their legacy, their children. And he said, what was promised for white people's posterity was taken from us and given to people of color. And therefore, the government owes white people money, reparations. He feels like he is justified for some reparations because of systemic racism against white people. How similar does this sound to you to the woke left and what they argue? They think Black people are owed reparations because of systemic racism against people of color. It's always about my identity group, in this case being a racial identity group. My identity group is the oppressed one. And therefore, my identity group needs special treatment and favors in the law. And the other racial identity groups need to be discriminated against, but my group needs special favors. It's the same. It's the same. You're just switching which group. Both of these belief systems, pay attention. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say it like I'm talking to a child, but if you're on the left and you're listening, or if you're in the middle or conservative and you're kind of skeptical about like, does this have stuff in common with woke? I'm just saying, pay attention to what's at the basis of their the foundation of both of these ideologies. If you pay attention to that, you can see, oh my goodness, they're both based on collectivism, not individualism, not where, you treat people as individuals. You judge and treat people. I'm talking about our intrinsic human value being, you're an individual. You're like a Christian view would say, you're an image bearer. You're a child of God. You have an intrinsic value because the Creator made you and wants to have a relationship with you. And these two ideologies are not, neither of them, although one pretends to be Christian. But these two ideologies say, no, first and foremost, you're not an individual. First and foremost, you are a group member. First and foremost, you are a member of a collective. First and foremost, you are an identity group member. First and foremost, you are a racial identity group member or a sex identity group member. Like, first and foremost, you are a white person or a Black person. Like, that's how both of these ideologies look at you. And they say we should be judged and treated differently based on which of these groups we're in. They both say that. They both have these moral values that they place on you. Yes, Texas Sheep Lady, like inferior, as if you are inferior because you're born one race or another, as if you are a victim because you're born one race or another. And both have a lot of resentment. Christianity is not based on resentment. Christianity is based on gratitude. Christianity is based on individualism and gratitude. Do you know what this means? It's like, so I'm not guilty for the sins of people who have the same race as me. That's ridiculous. Like the woke left tries to say, right? The woke left is like, they try to push this white guilt thing and like, you owe reparations and this and you that. You know why? Because white people who looked like you did XYZ. I don't care. They're not me. I'm not guilty for people who have the same race as me, and neither are you. And also, I'm not taking credit for things that people who had the same race as me did. I'm glad they did those things. I'm not going to deny they did those things. I'm grateful for it, but I'm not like pretending like I invented electricity. Like I didn't. Okay. But I'm not, the point is like Christianity is like, I am an individual in the eyes of God. I have my own sins that I did that I'm responsible for. And by the grace of God, I called out and asked for forgiveness for those sins. God gave me a new heart. It's a personal, individual relationship with Him. I'm not saved because I'm white. I'm not saved because I'm a woman or any other identity group. It has nothing to do with that race and sex and all these worldly human things that we put on it. No. It's an individual relationship with God. An individual humbling that happens. Repentance that happens when you realize what you are and what you're missing, what you crave, how you miss that oneness with God, that relationship with the Creator. And I saw this funny meme this week, and thinking of it right now, it was that meme of like Leonardo DiCaprio where he is looking here. Wait, let me just show it to you. It's so much better to show a meme than try and describe it, right? It's so funny. My friend Tatiana shared this here. Here we go. I happen to have this. It's the one where Leonardo DiCaprio looks so smug and he's laughing. And it says, when someone tries to insult me, but I sing hymns on Sunday that call me worse things. So good. It's so true. And I feel like Christians, fellow believers, you get that joke because we are singing hymns on Sunday. In fact, yesterday, one of the hymns, it's talking about a wretch like me. I'm a wretch. You're not going to call me much worse than that. It's true. But there's this based, like reality-based acknowledgement of our own capacity for human failure and evil and everything. And then this relief and this overwhelming joy that like God has saved us from that and from crippling shame about those things, that there's this freedom in God. Christianity is not based on resentment like these two different competitive bad belief systems. It's not based, and these competitive belief systems, woke left and what I'm calling woke right, or we're calling woke right until a better phrase comes along. They're both based on they're basically the same thing. They just switch the order of the identity groups, but they're very similar. It's like woke, but it's pretending to be right. And it's changing which identity groups, but they're both based on resentment. This guy's talking about white people need reparations, and this guy over here is talking about black people need reparations. And I'm like, how about you only get reparations for things that actually happen to you? Justice for things that happen to you. And you only get punished for things that you personally actually did and not things that other people did, that somehow you're getting other people's sin saddled onto you. So a lot of times in these discussions, I'm told, well, Keri, why are you talking about Jew hate? Why are you talking about anti-Semitism or racism? And like I said, they usually start off with racism and anti-Semitism doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. And then they have their carve outs and their caveats of like, well, it does exist, but just for white people. Racism does exist, but they have their carve outs, right? But here's a funny thing that's happened. The woke left, several of us have been saying this all along, like the past 8 years. The woke left has misused words. They're liars and deceivers, and they misuse words, but they did so, and they did so for many reasons. But one of the consequences of doing that is that they removed the meaning of words, and they sucked the meaning dry. So they called everyone Nazis. They called everyone except themselves racist, which is funny because they're racist. They are racist. They do judge and treat people differently on the basis of race. They do. And they are racist towards white people specifically. And sometimes they're racist towards Asian people. And they're also, weirdly enough, they're racist also towards the people they claim to defend and speak on behalf of. They're racist towards Black people because they say Black people don't know how to get an ID or do math or show up on time. And they have all these really disgusting racist stereotypes about Black people. So they're just racist through and through. But they called everyone else racist to distract and deflect from their own racism, A. But B, by doing that, it's so weird what happened because they called everyone who wasn't in the woke left a racist. And they called everyone, I'm talking about millions and millions and millions of people, they called them all of us, racist, Nazi, all this stuff. And they did it so long for so many years that you now have these young, mostly young people, not always, but young men for the most part, who are now saying things like racism doesn't mean anything. Nazi doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. That's what they're saying. They're buying into what the left did. So in the end, they're actually just as manipulated by the left, by the woke left, as the people who are in the woke left cult. Because they let their view of the world become skewed based on what the woke left said. Now they look out at the world with these woke left, these glasses that have been broken by the woke left, and they look out at the world and they say, there is no racism except for against white people. Like it's all been shaped as a reaction to the woke left. Their view is just as distorted. But they are, congratulations, the woke left got their way. They have turned you into the boogeyman they wanted to fight. So when I talk about this stuff, they say, again, there is no racism. There is no anti-Semitism. Racism only exists against white people. So it does exist, but only against white people. They say things like that. Then they always want to pivot and start talking about Israel and the war. I don't want to talk about Israel and the war. I don't have opinions on it. I don't know enough about it. The only opinion I have that I've expressed several times is I don't think we should be paying for the war. That's it. Other than that, I never talk about it because I don't know enough to talk about it. Why would I? And so they always pivot into this place of like, if you want to talk about Jew hate, you want to talk about rising anti-Semitism or Jew hatred, they're like, criticizing Israel isn't anti-Semitism. And here's a good response for that when they do it to you. When they're doing that deceitful game to you, I always say, you're right. Criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitism. I'm not talking about criticizing Israel. I'm talking about anti-Semitism. So that thing you want to talk about over there, go talk about it. Criticizing Israel and whatever criticisms you have, fine. If that's all you're doing, then this doesn't apply to you at all. Why are you hollering like a hit dog if this doesn't apply to you? Why are you hollering like it did hit you? Criticizing Israel is criticizing Israel. It's not anti-Semitic. It's not racist. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually anti-Semitic and racist things. And then they say, well, what is that? That doesn't actually exist. Yes, it does. Here we go. I just started collecting it. Now, I should have started a year ago because I've been seeing this stuff growing for a year, but I just thought to do it this month. And so let me put this on the stage. Now, every time I see this stuff in my comments, I just add it to this thread so that I can keep pointing people to this thread. So when they say that's not happening, I can say, well, okay, here it is. They do that woke thing. They do the thing that woke people do. Remember when the woke people would say, when you talk about mutilating and sterilizing children, how wrong that is. And the woke people say, that's not happening. And then you say, well, here are some studies that show double mastectomies happening to girls as young as 12 and 13. So it is happening. And then they go, well, it is happening, I guess, but it's a good thing that it's happening. Well, that's what these people do. They say, oh, anti-Semitism isn't real. It's not happening. And then you say, well, look at this thread. This thread is not about criticizing Israel. This thread has nothing to do with the war, nothing to do with the state of Israel. This thread is about being a racist jerk towards Jewish people. And that's it. So here, I said, this is a thread for me to direct people to when they do the woke, it's not happening thing about rising Jew hate. And they pretend that people are just commenting on the war, which is insulting to my intelligence. After I send them this thread, I expect some will move to the other woke thing and say, well, it is happening, but it's a good thing. So I've been doing screenshots and also the links because some of these are going to get deleted. I know that. So this one, what he was replying to got deleted, but he was replying to a Jewish guy. I think it was either to God's Side or Ron Coleman. I think it was Ron Coleman. And he puts in this racist depiction of a Jew, that I never thought I would see so much of this crap in 2025, but here we are. I see this kind of stuff on my timeline all the time. In honor of St. Patrick's Day, I'm gonna tell you, this is kind of funny. One of my friends, Frank McCormick, you guys know him as Chalkboard Heresy. He's the teacher who righteously stood up against woke left ideology in his elementary school and was fired for it. And I've got an interview with him up on the channel if you want to go back and watch that in the archives. But anyway, Frank McCormick, who is obviously Irish, he has an Irish last name, McCormick. For St. Patty's Day, it's like Frank McCormick. He's Catholic. He's Irish Catholic. And if you criticize this thing that's happening, this whole rise in anti-Semitism, if you call attention to it, like he's been doing, like I've been doing, they will call you a Jew. And so they've been calling him a Jew. And he said one of the funniest things. He said, what did he say? Oh, they're after me lucky shekels. Like Irish Jewish. And every time I think about that, it makes me laugh. They're after me lucky shekels. Okay, so they will call you that. They'll call you a Jew like it's an insult. It's the same way the woke would call you white, or they would call you white people, W-Y. They would do the letter Y and T. White people, remember that? Where they try and use white as if being white is the worst thing ever and it's an insult. Well, they do the same thing and they call you Jew, even if they know you're not, or, because to them it's an insult. Then they have, look at this. This is some of the stuff. I shared this almost a year ago to the date, March 25th, 2024. That's how I know that I've been noticing this for a year. I said back then, you shall know them by their fruits. These are some of the fruits of the fringe white supremacist and anti-Semitic groyper influencers. Now, a year ago, it wasn't as bad as it is today. It's gotten worse. But here's some of the stuff where they are trying to appropriate the phrase Christ is King, and they're using it clearly, not to tell people of Christ's glory, to tell people that Christ is King, which he is. If you're a believer, you know this to be true. But they're saying it to mean F the Jews. They're saying it to mean something hateful and malicious and racist and gross, which is a perversion of what the phrase means. It's subverting the phrase. It's like mocking Christ. It's taking God's name in vain. That's what they're doing. And I think they're part of the reason they're doing it is to try and make because they claim to be Christian, they claim to be conservatives. I think they're trying to make Christians look bad. I think they're trying to make conservatives look bad. I think they're trying to do a fake version of like, this is what Christians and conservatives are like. And some people are falling for this crap. And they're starting to believe this crap. It's not just one or two people. I can already hear in my head, like there are people arguing, oh, this is cherry picked. No, it's all the time in the comments. And they follow certain creators. They follow these anti-Semitic creators. Candace Owens being one. Now, Candace Owens, I don't think she's actually, somebody was like, I don't think she's anti-Semitic. And I was like, well, great. We agree. I don't actually think she's anti-Semitic either, but she's saying anti-Semitic things. I think she's a grifter and a con artist and some type of cluster B. I think that she will say anything. I don't know if she's paid to say these things or not, but I don't think she sincerely believes them. I don't think she's sincerely a Jew hater. I just think she doesn't care. And she's going to say whatever's going to get her the clicks and attention right now. I think she's a force for dark right now. I regret ever sharing any of her stuff or listening to her. Elijah Schaffer, he's another one. Elijah Schaffer is saying explicitly racist and anti-Semitic stuff. I regret going on his program. I think he's full of crap and a complete fraud in many ways. We'll just leave it at that. And, he's not just saying anti-Semitic stuff. He's saying stuff on the regular now about how Black people can never be American. These are not real conservatives. These are not people who believe in individualism and liberty. These are anti-constitutionalists. And if you look in their comments, they are cultivating an audience of people who are buying into this crap. So here's some of the people using the phrase Christ is King in a perverted way. It's not hard to tell how somebody's using it. It's not. Like, that's the other thing is I see people going, should we not say Christ is King now? Of course you should not stop saying Christ is King if you're a believer. He is. It's sort of like what I said before. Don't, like when I was talking about the woke left has changed the way that some of these woke right people think and the way they speak and the things they say. Well, don't let that happen the other way. Don't let woke right people misusing this phrase change the way you speak or the things you believe or the things you say. It just so happens that yelling Christ is King every day on Twitter is not something I normally did anyway before these people started trying to pervert the phrase. So it wasn't like a let me wake up and do that. And a lot of the big influencers, the ones with large platforms who are now doing this, are total frauds, like Benny Johnson, another one, who went from never saying it to now saying it every morning. Benny Johnson started doing that after praising and promoting an alleged child rapist and sex trafficker, Andrew Tate. Not interviewing him, praising him and promoting him to his audience. After that, he started running the Christ is King defense every day. Christ is King. I'm like, you know what? You're taking the Lord's name in vain. You're trying to use Christianity as a cloak. It's disgusting. To people who believe in some people, I know this is shocking. Some of us actually believe in the things we say we believe in. Like, it's actually important to us. So I have a lot of anger about people trying to smear Christianity, to smear Christians, to smear Christ himself by saying things they don't believe and don't mean, or by saying things with a perverted, disgusting meaning. One comparison from the woke left would be the way that woke left tried to, here, let me take this off the screen just for a second. The way that woke left tried to Wait a minute. I don't know why this isn't working. Hold on. Okay. Do you remember the way they tried to get everybody to say Black Lives Matter? They tried to get everybody to say it, and it was sort of this struggle session thing, this game that they would play. And if you recognized what was happening and the rhetorical games they were doing, the devices they were using, if you recognized that, like, hey, wait a minute, this organization, Black Lives Matter, and the people that are supporting it are Marxists, and they're trying to destroy the nuclear family openly. And by the way, all the money's going to mansions for the leaders of the group. And, this is a racially divisive thing that's pretending to be anti-racism, but it's actually a racist thing. And I'm not going to be a part of that. And if you refuse to do it, remember what they would say? They would say, so you don't believe Black Lives Matter? And it's like, yeah, of course I do. Well, why won't you say it? Why won't you capitalize it and put it in your profile? You better say it. You better say it or else you don't believe it. No. Like, I'm not going to be part of some weird game you're playing. Of course I believe Black Lives Matter, but I'm not going to bend the knee and do the thing that you're telling me to do, bend the knee to your Marxist ideology. No. Okay. So they're doing something similar with this. Again, I'm not equating it. I'm not saying it's the exact same. I'm just saying it's similar. They're doing this similar game where they're like, why won't you say it then? Say it exactly this way. Where people are sort of asking, well, of course I believe Christ is King and Lord of Lords. And they're like, you didn't say it the exact way. Say it. Say Christ is King. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you taking this true phrase for that I do believe in and trying to use it for? What darkness are you trying to use it for? Like, I want to be very clear that I'm not a part of whatever it is you're trying to force me to be a part of. That's happening. Yes, Andrew, difference is BLM doesn't have the name of God. Yes, exactly. They're not equal. They're just, I'm making some comparisons. Exactly. So here are some of these phrases. Let's go through some. These are some examples. Quote, this is a tweet. Once you become aware of international Jewry, it's hard not to say Christ is King, just to force a shape-shifting Jew into exposing itself like a monster, right? Okay. It's hard not to say Christ is King to force a shape-shifting Jew into exposing itself. This is after apparently you become aware of so-called international Jewry. Okay. Here's a picture of groyper king Nick Fuentes holding a crucifix. Nick Fuentes, again, perpetually single man with some perverted sexual proclivities, allegedly never married, who claims to be traditional and Catholic and yet says things like marriage is for gay people and for cucks, and married men are cucks and things like this. And married men are gay, he says, and weird stuff like this. And, he was one of the ones on January 6th who was on camera on a bullhorn telling his supporters to storm the Capitol, and yet nothing happened to him that day. Weird, right? Weird that there were no legal repercussions for him. So a lot of people think he is some type of informant for or a Fed or, some type of plant. Anyway, this person has a picture of him, groyper king Nick Fuentes, and it says, oy vey. And this is in quotes, so they're making fun. They're saying, oy vey, everyone understands that saying Christ is King is anti-Semitic and therefore should not be said. And this person goes, is that so? Watch this. Christ is King. Seethe harder, Jew. Seethe harder, Jew. Okay. Here's another. Christ is King. Every Jew knee will bow. Seems like they got some very specific sort of hatred of Jewish people. What would you call that? Here's another one. It says, what? Waking up to the truth? Scary proposition for Jews, I would imagine. Imagine being found out for the murderous liars you really are. Christ is king. So all Jews are murderous liars in a way that all humans aren't? Like, how are you setting apart this one race and saying they specifically are all murderous liars in a way that humankind, they are fallen in a way that humankind is not fallen? I'm sorry, that's not Christianity. That's not Christianity. We are all equally fallen. We all need Jesus. That's Christianity. Here's a few more. The quote, the moment you have Christians saying Christ is king, the Jews immediately go back to slandering white people. What? Who are these people? Here's another one. Christ is king, Jews be damned. They should pray for faith and forgiveness and quit their Jewish unbelief and be spared. Again, why are you singling out Jews? And I know Jews who have found Jesus. And why are you singling them? Why are you singling them out? Like, why aren't you saying everybody should pray for faith and forgiveness? But it's like, no, Jews be damned. They should pray for faith and forgiveness, quit their Jewish unbelief and be spared, yet many won't. Their pride prevents it. What need have I of a savior? Our Lord uses them as an example for the rest of us. Don't be like them, like Jews. That's what he means. John Connor, hey, Jewess, just curious, you and your tribe have been expelled from 109 countries in the past. Do you and your fellow Jews ever examine your subversive and anti-Christian behavior as the provocation for your being expelled? By the way, Jewess, it's going to be 110 countries soon. Christ is king. Like basically saying we're going to be kicking all Jews out of our country. This is not Christianity. And saying Christ is king, putting a Christ is king stamp on this, that is not Christianity. That's taking the Lord's name in vain, which is one of the worst things you can do, serpent. Here's another one. Jeremy Boring, who from the Daily Wire, who had said, like I say, of course not. Christ, he says Christ is king. He's a Christian. Christ is king. As I said in my post, say it loud, say it proud. And this groyper says, what a relief. The Jews give me permission to say Christ is king as long as I stop noticing that Jews are destroying society again and again. Notice how he's calling Jeremy, who's a Christian, he's calling him a Jew. This is what they do. They call everyone Jews. There's more. I mean, there's just this person says Muslims will no longer be used as a fall guy for Jews' shortcomings. In this, we are brothers. He's saying Christians and Muslims are brothers because they both hate the Jews. He's saying we both hate the Jews, so we're brothers. Christ is king, he says, and every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. Here's another groyper meme. Kneel before God. Christ is king. Here's another one. Christ is king, Jew. He says that to a Christian. This is Christ is king. This person just spammed Christ is king, Christ is king, Christ is king. Rot, skank. Suck some more Jew, C-O-C-K, you worthless sket. F-U-C-K yourself. Get back to Israel. Bye. Go away, you hairy chimp. That's right after saying Christ is king 3 times. Are you witnessing for Christ when you do this? Are you being sincere when you do this? Are we to believe that when you say Christ is king, that's what you mean, and you mean it filled with the Spirit of Jesus, filled with the Holy Spirit, that's what you're doing? No. Don't insult my intelligence, and don't insult my faith, and don't insult my God. And that's what these woke right people are doing when they lie to my face, lie to me on X and say, this isn't happening. I don't know what you're talking about. Like this thread, I only showed you 3 tweets. This goes on and on and on. Here, look. F this Jew, F-U-C-K this Jew, Christ is king. It just, it goes on and on and on. And I've added so many to this thread. Look at this. This is, they just say like right out loud what it is that they are. This was my friend Frank McCormick, who I mentioned. And he said, if I were Jewish, I would honestly consider leaving the country. The JQ, that's what they call it, the Jewish question, the Jewish conspiracy, right? Like it's the Jews. He's like, the JQ is now mainstream and it will only get worse. And this guy goes, this woke right person goes, the official 1984, pretty big account. You might follow this anti-Semitic account. Says, I would have to say that I 100% agree. Welcome to the jungle, Jews. Buckle up or FUCK off, back to Israel. We're about to flip some tables and cast out some demons. This is a very large account, the official 1984. Here's the kind of stuff they say to Frank, to me, to others. Are you a Jew? Because you're a dirty Jew. You didn't answer the question like a typical evasive Jew. Again, Frank is an Irish Catholic with a name McCormick. Okay. But, you know, doesn't matter to these guys. Truth doesn't matter to them. Just like truth doesn't matter to the woke left. Here's another one. Heritage, white heritage pride, heritage of white. That's the handle. Jews deserve death and hell, says this person. They put up this meme. They say, just to clarify. And they've separated the word Judeo-Christian. They have Christian representing Christ on the cross, and they have Judeo, like the Jews did this over here. Here's one from Elijah Schaefer. Cry more, Jew boy. By the way, they're all doing this stuff now. Even the large accounts, these anti-Semitic large accounts, like Elijah Schaefer has millions of followers. I used to think he was just a normal based person. I went on his show back when he was on The Blaze. This guy is a total wolf in sheep's clothing in more ways than one. And here he is now, just outright. They just do this. They go, if you disagree with them or you try to have a conversation or like, where are you going with the cry more, Jew boy? He says. Here's where he's talking about Jewish people. They are American citizens and share equal rights, but they are not ethnically American. Oh, no, this is when he was talking about black people. He was saying black people are not ethnically American. Even if they're third generation, fourth generation, it doesn't matter. If they're black, they're not really American. That's what Elijah Schaefer is saying. He goes, unlike you, some of us are ethnically and legally American. He's a heritage American, guys. Joel Berry, one of the guys at the Babylon Bee, who's been noticing this stuff and calling it out too. He and Seth Dillon are both doing a great job. He says, you know, Jew hate is the new wokeness. And this guy goes, well, I'm woke AF then. They're just admitting it. I'm woke AF. They just say it. They don't, I mean, they are woke. Right in quotes. Here's another one. I'm starting to see this kind of stuff everywhere on X where they're like, Hitler wasn't such a bad guy. Hitler was great. Hitler was a Christian. Hitler was this. Hitler was one of the craziest ones happened yesterday. Corey Mailer, I'll show you in a second, who's one of the co-hosts of a very popular, supposedly Christian podcast. That's an outright, openly white supremacist podcast, openly anti-Semitic podcast. And he just tweeted that the Third Reich was Christianity put into political action. that Hitler was basically commanded by God to do what he did. Like, this is where do you see why I'm saying this is a smear of not just Christians and Christianity, but a smear of Christ himself? This is so evil. But I'm starting to see a lot of this rehabilitation of Hitler crap happening, and so I never thought I would see all this in my lifetime. I never thought I would see all the woke stuff that we've seen in my lifetime, and now this crazy stuff's happening. And I'm like, this is happening in our lifetime too? Okay. Here's a picture of Hitler, and it says, growing up is realizing that Adolf Hitler was one of the greatest leaders in human history. This is an account called Next Wave America. This is just from a few days, guys, of adding stuff to this thread. I should have started a year ago. It would be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages because I see it all the time now. It just now, if I see it, I just bookmark it, put it in here. This is some random guy replying to, I don't know, he deleted it, but I'm glad I screenshot it. He says, is there a single Jew man between all you gossiping, shaming, and lying yenta whores? This is the way these supposedly Christian woke right guys talk to women, by the way. This is how they talk to women. Yenta whores. Is there a single Jew man between all you gossiping, shaming, and lying yenta whores? It truly makes sense why every single civilized nation and people you fled were right. How filthy you are. Disgusting, rotten degenerates. Okay. Here's another one. Cry harder. The JQ, the Jewish question. It's the Jews. Isn't going back in the bottle, he says. It's not going back in the bottle. Here's just one of the many anti-Semitic replies that God Saad is getting. You're going back in the oven, it says. Here's Nicholas Fuentes, I guess, retweeted this. Never forget what they have done. And it's all Jews. It's Jews who did all these evil things. It's not humans. It's Jews. They even included 9/11 on there. Jews did that. That's the new thing. Candace Owens is pushing that thing. Jews did 9/11. Full of lies, by the way. I dissected the lies in her video about that. Michael Spangler, who claims to be a Christian leader and is now full-on white nationalist. Here's what he's saying. He's admitting it now. They went from saying this isn't true to some of them are now admitting it. Okay, so he's saying, we anti-Semites are not unmanly. He calls himself an anti-Semite. So you guys are like, some people are saying anti-Semitism doesn't exist. This guy calls himself an anti-Semite. He says, we anti-Semites are not unmanly. Rather, we are hardened Christian warriors, bound by necessity to fight with all our might against the power of the world, the state, the devil, and indeed the church, all which are sick with godless love for Christ's sworn enemies, the Jews. And then it's an article he wrote. That's a quote from an article he wrote. Look at all these the woke right guys who are propping him up. People like Joel Webbin, Eric Kahn, Brian Suave, this little toad, Wesley Todd, who's like the underling for Joel Webbin. Stephen Wolf is saying, oh, Michael Spangler's my friend and a good man. So if you try to call this out and say, hey, Michael Spangler, this is not Christian what you're doing. This kind of kinism and hatred and malicious, preferential treatment, showing partiality and all this stuff. It's unbiblical. This isn't God's way. This isn't Christ's way. If you try and do that, then all these guys pop up like Stephen Wolf and Wesley Toad. And they're like, Michael's my friend and a good man. He's a good man. This anti-Semite, he's good. Amen. Don't know him personally, but his track record is that of a faithful minister and a godly man, says the Toad. Here's some more. Hitler made Jews work for a job that wasn't banking, media, or porn for a few years, and they claim it was genocide. That's one of their jokes. Hitler was so furious at the pathetic work they did in these camps, I heard that he had special machines constructed to masturbate them to death. It's just more and more of this kind of stuff. I almost don't want to show this next one because she doesn't deserve the attention, but this person, one of the worst people I've ever encountered, one of the worst monsters. Of course, where are the monsters lining up? They're all lining up together. She says, anyone who says this is about Jew haters is lying, and you should never listen to them again. Listen to me and my cult. There's other tweets of hers asking for groypers to send your best pictures of Hitler in the replies. Here she is saying, I wish that Donald Trump was America's Hitler. I wish. This person, by the way, didn't vote for Trump. This person voted for Nick Fuentes and took a photo of her ballot and put it up. You know, a bunch of people were voting for Nick Fuentes and Hitler, a bunch of the groypers. They didn't even vote for Trump. They're not Trump voters. She's not a Trump voter. Here she is saying Hitler went to heaven. Here's some more. Fuck this Jew. Christ is king. Oh, that's the one I showed earlier. Here's a meme from one. Go be a Jew somewhere else. And it's a guy with a water hose spraying. And it's that cartoon depiction of a Jew there. Go be a Jew somewhere else. Christ is king. Hail Hitler. There's another one. It just goes on and on. Now look at this. Andrew Torba. Another person's revealed himself to be full of this darkness. Runs Gab. I remember years ago when he first started Gab and he was having all the pushback, and I remember defending this guy on camera, and I thought he was just a normal based guy. Nope. Somehow he got pulled over into this stuff, this darkness. And so this is him. It's so weird. He's showing a Venn diagram of militant Islam, the extreme left, and the extreme right. Okay, those are the three belief systems that are represented in this Venn diagram. And he says the place they overlap is FUCK, the Jews. That's where they all three overlap. He says militant Islam is FUCK, the West, F the West, and F LGBT. The extreme left is F the West and F the establishment. And the extreme right is F the establishment and F LGBT. And where they all three overlap is F the Jews. What's crazy about this is Andrew Torba, like a lot of these woke right guys, claims to be a Christian. He's even got a picture of Jesus in his profile picture. Claims to be a Christian. And he says, inquiring minds should find it interesting that three distinct and totally opposed ideologies all arrive at the same inevitable conclusion across millennia. What is that conclusion? FUCK, the Jews. Well, no, you know what I find interesting, Andrew Torba, is that these three ideologies are evil ideologies. Militant Islam, like Islamism, like fundamentalist, like the kind that, you know, the militant kind that does terrorism and kills people and throws people off roofs, and, you know, militant Islam, extreme left and extreme right. You took three evil ideologies. You said, look at this thing that all three of these evil ideologies have in common. So weird. You know what ideology is missing from your Venn diagram, Andrew Torba? Christianity. It's not on here. I don't know if you noticed that. It's like you showed your hand. You showed your cards. Yeah, we know this. We know this. You're not a Christian. You pervert the name of Christianity. You pervert the name of Christ. You subvert it. It's disgusting what you do. And how funny. You didn't even notice. You didn't even catch yourself. You're like, isn't this interesting that these three evil ideologies arrived at the same thing, but you didn't call them evil because you think, oh, it's great that all three of these ideologies arrived at F the Jews. Well, what are these ideologies that arrived there? The extreme right, the extreme left, and militant Islam. Okay. 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 Here's a bunch that my friend Jennifer Greenberg, who's a Christian, a Christian, but because she's got a Jewish last name, you know, these are just a sampling of hundreds of comments she's gotten in the past week. Why don't you shut the F-U-C-K up, Jew? Here's another one. It's a picture of a German, a Nazi, and it says shower time. He's grabbing towards the camera. Here's another. The anti-American Jew cunt. That's what they called her. An anti-American Jew cunt. Imagine my surprise. Here's another. This is Europe, not Jewland. Here's another. Oy vey. Here's another. It's a picture of Hitler, and it says, you are Jewish. Here's another. Warning, this person's Jewish. It has a Star of David on it. It has that little Jew drawing again. It's the third time we've seen it. Just in this episode alone. Third time we've seen that. I told you I see that drawing all the time. Here we go. Greenberg. Right. F-U-C-K off to Israel, bitch. That's what it says. Again, she's a Christian. And the Christian author, other guy goes, we will kick you out of our countries too, you treacherous cunt. Here's another. It's called free speech, Jew. You don't like it? Fuck off to Israel. I'm sorry I said the whole word. I meant to say I meant to spell it. Anyway, settle down, Greenberg. It's just constant. Here's a picture of Nick Fuentes. It's just like the Hitler meme, but it's Fuentes. And it says, you are Jewish. Here's another one. F-U-C-K off, Jew dog. Free speech, says another. Berg detected, comment rejected. Anyway, it just goes on. Meaning Berg, Greenberg. So she's Jewish. There's a Berg in her name. Here's a person who replied to me the other day. Woke right is the term for radical right, or real right, as some call them. The term is used by centrists who have an affinity for Jews. That's what I guess I am, he's saying. I'm a centrist who has an affinity for Jews. Here's the Christian I was talking about. So in this space, the podcasting space and cultural commentary space, influencer, whatever it's called. I hate that word, but there's this popular so-called Christian podcast. It's got grown a very large audience. It's called Stone Choir. It is unabashedly anti-Semitic, white supremacist, Nazi, fascist, all those terms. They would not shy away from it. This is one of the two hosts. This is Corey Mailer. Again, everything they do, they market themselves. They put themselves out there as a Christian podcast. And he just said yesterday, he tweeted this: the Third Reich was Christianity translated into politics. That's what he said. Now, a couple things about this guy. This guy and his co-host at the Stone Choir, they hate the woke right light guys like Joel Webbin and Eric Kahn and Brian Swab, because those guys steal from them all the time and try and make it marketable to more mainstream audience. They take his white supremacy and his Nazi stuff and his unbiblical crap, and they package it. And if you want to know what Joel Webbin's going to talk about every week, all you have to do is look at Corey Mailer and Stone Choir and what they talked about, because he's going to steal it directly from them. They have called this out, which is kind of funny. They hate him for stealing from them. And in a weird way, if they sincerely believe all this stuff, that there's preaching this evil anti-Semitic, racist belief system, if they sincerely believe it, I have more respect for them than I do someone like Webbin, because at least they're saying what they believe to be true, even if they're severely misguided. It's just like the woke. I've said this for years. If you're a sincere believer in woke and you really believe all the crap that you're saying, and you believe that you're helping to end racism by doing it, I have a lot more respect for you, because at least you're saying what you believe to be true. But the con artists, the snakes, the grifters, the people who jumped on woke just to make money, they're not sincere believers. Those people, no respect for them whatsoever. Because here's why. The sincere person, you can change their mind. They can be reached. They are authentic. They are authentically wrong, but they're authentic, and they can be reached, and you can change their mind. I was a sincere believer in woke. All the people I've met who've left woke, who are real, who are not con artist grifters, were sincere believers. You can change a believer's mind. You cannot change a grifter's mind, a con artist. You can get them to do a different con. You change what's popular. So this guy, he's, from what I can tell, he's the real deal. He really believes all this white nationalist garbage. And he and his co-host hate the grifting con artist snake, Joel Webbin in particular, for lifting everything from them. And they call him out all the time, which is kind of funny. But so it should be concerning to you if you're a believer. It's concerning to me. That's something that markets itself as a Christian podcast that's pretty popular, is saying stuff like this, is saying unbiblical stuff like this, like that, co-signing the Holocaust and persecution of Jews in the year 2025, that this is happening. And look at where this leads. I just want to show you where this leads, because one of his followers, who has HH, Hale Horribiger is his name, says to him, he had a lot of exciting comments. This guy says, Hitler has replaced Jesus Christ. I finally took the Bible off of my bookshelf and now proudly display Mein Kampf, this follower of his says. Now, some people are like, this is a bot. There's no way this could be true. I don't know. Go to his profile. He looks like one of the real ones to me. And to me, it doesn't matter if this particular one is a bot or not. I happen to think he's real. But the point is, some of these guys are real and some are bots, and it's all mixed in together. And those of you who are like, well, this is just an op and there's just a lot of bots and there's a lot of fake. Yeah, I think there is. I think you're right. There is a lot of, this is an op and they are faking a lot of this. And there's a lot of woke leftists pretending to be these people. But some of these people are real. We know Elijah Schaffer, Candace Owen, some of the other people pushing this stuff, they're real. Are they just con artists and grifters? Some of them, yes. That's why they're doing it. Or maybe they're on some payroll, but they don't care. They don't care what this is doing to the right. They are part of an op that is smearing Christians, that's smearing Christianity, that's smearing conservatives, smearing Trump voters. They're trying to destroy the momentum that we have. These people are not based in reality. Their ideology is more like woke ideology. They are racial collectivists. They are illiberal. Just like the woke left, they talk about wanting to tear up the Constitution and start over. They're anti-constitutionalists. They believe in censorship. They're authoritarians. They have so much in common with the woke left in terms of their ideology, but in terms of tactics too. They engage in cancel mobs. They harass people. They dox people. They threaten people. They rely on ad hominem. They call people names. They use a person's race as an insult. They use a person's sex as an insult, like their gender. They have so much in common with the woke left, both in terms of the structure of their ideology and in terms of their tactics. Lettuce says, so if you want to discredit Christianity, associate it with Nazis, yes, that's what they are doing. And isn't that weird? Because that's a goal of the woke left. The woke left for years. I started talking about this 3 or 4 years ago. There was an uptick all of a sudden. You can go and look at Google and you can type in the phrase Christian nationalism, type in the phrase white Christian nationalism. A few years ago, spiked. All the woke left corporate media and there was a whole op where they would just suddenly started doing article after article about the danger of white Christian nationalism. White Christian nationalists are on the rise and they're such a horrible, and they're all Nazis and they're all this and that. And at the time, it was like, what are you talking about? Being a nationalist doesn't make you a Nazi or a fascist. Being a nationalist just means putting your country first. Being a Christian nationalist just means putting your country first and thinking that your belief system, your faith system, of course, should be reflected in your politics and your policy opinions, of course. And so at the time it was like, what are they talking about? Well, this boogeyman, this fake white supremacist, fascist, Nazi, this stereotype, this boogeyman that they created out here that a few years ago, we all would have said, what are you talking about? That doesn't exist. Who is that? Well, they're creating it. And there's these people now that, again, I'm going to call them woke right until another phrase emerges that's more popular, that people know better than woke right. Until then, this is the one most people are using. So it's the one I'm going to use. It's the most well-known. These woke right people are stepping up and saying, I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll be your boogeyman. I will help you smear Christians and conservatives. That's what they're doing. Therese says Satan is hard at work. Yes, he is. I haven't had time. I was trying to explain this as best I could. And so I haven't had time to look through the chat. I'm going to take just a minute and look at what some of you guys are saying. Andrew, oh, I got that one. Oh, I do. You're right. I want to pull up the Jordan Peterson thing. Skillet Actual for $10 says, thank you for starting at 2:30. I finally get to watch live again. Also, now that they're out and proud, I'm all for just calling the woke right the fascists that they are. They are fascists. And it's so funny, Skillet. Some of them put it in their bios. Like they're just like mask off. They're like, I'm a fascist now. They just say it. Justin Peterson for $5. Hey, Justin. He says, even God gave us free will. No such grace from totalitarians. Exactly. That's exactly. This is another great distinction between Christianity and woke right or woke left. Or you might think of it this way, between Christianity and communism or fascism. Communism and fascism are two sides of the same dirty coin. Woke left and this thing we're calling woke right, two sides of the same dirty coin, right? And another way that Christianity is different from those is Christianity requires free will. God gave us free will. God didn't make us all robots. God didn't program us to be without a choice, to just be these automaton robots worshiping him. God gave us free will. Totalitarianism, as Justin says, authoritarianism doesn't. It's like, you will do and say this. You will have no choice, no free will. Which, funny enough, then nothing you say or do means anything because it's forced. Your Average Patriot Nerd gifted 5 Deprogrammed memberships. Hey, what's up? I'm going to start calling you Your Average Patriot Nerd. It took me this long to realize that your username is an acronym. Yappin. Yappin gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Powercat Greg is here. He says, happy St. Patrick's Day, Keri. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I hope you have a lot of fun tonight, whatever you choose to do. All you guys, Skillet Actual for $10. Thank you. Skillet Actual says, I wonder if the fascists know the exact phrase, Christ is King, is not found anywhere in the Bible. Every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Philippians 2:11. Thank you so much for giving us scripture. I appreciate turning directly to scripture for something like this. Thank you. You know what, Skillet Actual, I want to show you. There was also a video clip of Nick Fuentes, King Groyper himself, admitting that he and the Groypers have tried to subvert and pervert the meaning of Christ is King. There's a video clip of him just basically saying, this is what we're doing. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I should have had it already ready. Because it's like, look, straight from the horse's mouth. I'm going to put this on the screen. Okay, Joel Berry, who is, again, from the Babylon Bee, he shared this clip, and it says, here's Nick Fuentes saying he and the groypers started the Christ is King trend in order to identify Jews and Jew sympathizers. Okay, let's hear what old Fuentes has to say.
But I will say that I was one of the first people in a political context on the right wing to start saying Christ is King. That was kind of the groypers thing for a while. Now, Republican politicians and conservatives would talk about God a lot, and they would talk about Judeo-Christianity. We were the first really explicitly Catholic, really intense, far-right group to say Christ is King. And what's interesting about that phrase is, unlike one nation under God, not everybody can and not everybody will say it. And it's interesting. When you go to some kind of conservative, Republican, liberal, Democratic event, and they say one nation under God, everybody can put their hand over their heart and say that. And when they say...
Actually, I know this some atheists who, very argumentative, obstinate atheists who purposely would not do that on that part.
May God protect our troops. Everybody can say that. But if you go to a political rally and everyone's chanting Christ is King, if you look around the room, you may notice not everybody is saying the chant. Not everybody can. And by nature, it is exclusionary. Because unlike a vague appeal to God, not everybody can say it. That's because not everybody believes it. And saying it is a way to quickly identify who's really with us, who actually has a faith that is strong and alive. Not every Christian wakes up every day and says, Christ is King. Some liberal Christians wake up and say, we should tolerate everybody and everything's fine. So even some Catholics say that. But for a Catholic to wake up every day and say, Christ is King. Christ is your King. He's my King. He's the King. It's Christ himself. It is not just some vague God. It's a particular one. That's a very quick way to identify who's with us, who's a part of the body of the church, who's a part of the body of Christ, and who's outside of it for one reason or another. And Christ is King is something that actually Jewish people cannot participate in. And if we're to say that the country should be run by Christians, that's also something that Jews actually can't participate in.
He has said this before, that Jewish people should not be able to participate in politics. And it's so weird. It's like he sort of noticed for a second there that it's not just Jewish people. It's also atheists and Muslims and a whole host of people who would not say something that's explicitly Christian. But what he's wrong about is this. You are not saying it to find out who is a Christian. That's not what you're doing, because Nick Fuentes, you are not a Christian. Do you know how I know? Because of your fruits, because of every scripture in the Bible that talks about you shall know them by their fruits. And we just went through almost an hour of looking at your followers, at the groypers, and the context and the way in which they use Christ as King. Their fruits are rotten. They don't use it to mean Christ is King of my life and my behaviors. Christ is King of the universe and also of my life and my behaviors and my words and my tongue and my impulses and my emotions. And it's very obvious through their behaviors and the way they behave in the world that that Christ is not King of anything. Of their emotions, their speech, their behaviors, their tongue, the way they treat people, their thoughts, nothing. A lot of these groypers who spam Christ is King, if you go to their accounts, you'll see this stuff like Heritage American and what have you. You'll see sometimes blatant stuff that says how much they hate Jewish people. You'll see stuff about how they're fascist, but you'll also see all kinds of degenerate porn. They post degenerate porn and gay porn. A lot of these guys are posting gay porn. So don't talk to me about like you're saying this to figure out like who is a follower of Christ. Christ gave us in the Bible a way to know who is a follower of Christ. Do you know what he said? You shall know them by their fruits. He didn't say, you shall know them by them saying Christ is king while they treat people in a very unchristian way. You shall know them by them continuing to spam Christ is king while they treat people in a very unchristian way. That's not what he said. He said, you shall know them by their fruits. Speaking of Pharisees and people who just use the word as a cloak, I said I would bring this up. Andrew Knapp gave a super chat mentioning it earlier, and this is Jordan Peterson, I think, telling the truth about someone like Candace Owens. Now, you know what I respect about, I'll say this, a lot of people bag on my friend James Lindsay, for example, who's an atheist, but who speaks a lot of truth and who seems to understand a lot more about scripture than some of these people who are proclaiming Christ as king, some of these groypers and stuff. They will bag on atheists for not being pretenders. Here's what I respect about someone who's not a believer. I think God is working on Jordan Peterson. I think he's working on James Lindsay, and I think he's working on a lot of people. And I don't respect people who are liars. And anybody who would pretend to be a Christian or pretend to have a faith they don't have, or a relationship they don't have, just so you take them more seriously. Oh, like James Lindsay's a Christian now, I guess I'll listen. Then it's he's full of crap if he were to do that. I respect the fact that he's not willing to make some fake conversion just to try and get Christians to listen to the warnings he's giving. Same thing with Jordan Peterson. Like, don't let it be fake. You know, I didn't take communion until it felt right to me, until it was real, until it meant something. My husband, when he started coming to church with me, he didn't take communion until it meant something to him, until it was real. He didn't fake it for me. Thank God. I respected him so much for not faking something that meant that was real to me and to others. Like, don't pretend. He had a reverence for it. And those people who refuse to be pretenders, they have a reverence for the beliefs. Jordan Peterson has a reverence for Christianity. James Lindsay has a reverence for Christianity. You should hear him talk about, if you haven't, him talk about how Christianity is the antidote to tyranny. So I appreciate the fact when people are not willing to pretend that they have a relationship with the supernatural God, that they believe in a God if they don't yet. Be real, be honest. Again, it means nothing if you're faking or lying, or if you're forced. So this is Jordan Peterson calling out Candace Owens. He says, Candace Owens, a true Pharisaical pretender. She vociferously proclaims her devotion to Christ for no other reason than to elevate her perceived status. Her outrage is designed not to shout the truth from the rooftops, build bridges, or make peace, but to subvert Christianity itself with its new force to her own purposes. Yes. She is literally using God's name in vain. There are few more unforgivable sins. Every word of this is truth. He says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You are like whitewashed tombs. This is one of my go-to verses. You are like whitewashed tombs, which appear beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones and every kind of filth. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. Do you know what this means? This is why false shepherds make me so angry, and fake Christians make me so angry, and people who pervert the name of Christ and say one thing but live another. It's because they are pushing people away from God. especially the false shepherds, the ones who are pastors, who are leading people towards the devil while they pretend to be leading them towards God. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, people who are coming to you looking for the way, the truth, and the light, and you take them off in the other direction. It's so foul. This is why Jesus said it's better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck and be thrown into the ocean than what awaits you. That fate would be better. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter. Yeah, you don't enter either, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. All this for the Machiavellians who dare to use what is good for their own vile purposes. Finally, if she wasn't the worst of hypocrites, she would forswear the Tate brothers, for example. But they draw attention, and for a pretender, all attention's good attention, even at the cost, say, of the pearl of great price. God's truth. Doesn't matter to me, the vessel delivering it, it's true. Speaking fire. And Andrew, who reminded me of that when he gave the super chat, he mentioned this verse. He said, it reminded me of the verse, if these were quiet, the stones would cry out. If you were to silence Jordan Peterson, if you were to silence me and James Lindsay and others who are calling this out, the stones would cry out. Like, this is truth. So people can attack him all they want. What he said was true. ADL 1992 for $4.99. Thank you, sir. Says, I don't know if you follow Andrew Klavan, a Jewish Christian convert. He has gotten lots of anti-Semitic comments since Candace Owens left DW or Daily Wire. I loosely follow him. I follow so many people that I need to cull it more. I started following too many, but I see his stuff once in a while, and I do see, yes, he's a Jewish person who found Jesus and became a Christian, and I do see him go at it with, opposing some of this crazy stuff that people like Candace Owens is saying. Thank you for that. I'll Fight You Naked for $5 says it took 2 years for the astroturfed anti-Semitism to sprout some idiot seeds. The bad guys are really good at creating this stuff. You're absolutely right. I'll Fight You Naked. They've been trying to do this for a long time. I don't know why it's like sprouting now, but it's starting to sprout. It doesn't mean that it's anywhere. Don't mishear me, people. It's like woke got to the level where woke controls all of culture in the West. Woke was like controlling the White House, all of government, and at least now they don't have the presidency, but at one point woke was controlling all of government and academia, Hollywood, entertainment, K through 12 education, everything, and churches. And this stuff, woke right, isn't anywhere near that yet. We're still in the sprouting stages. Okay. It's not like a full grown tree. It's like a sprout. It's a sprout. They've been seeding this for a while. Now it's sprouting. It would be great if it never becomes a tree. It would be great if we could become discerning, call this stuff out now, show it no quarter. Don't tolerate it or put up with it. Don't let it tarnish what we are. Like, don't let it tarnish the name of God or conservatism or Christianity and these things, but like the name of God, don't let it do that. Okay. I think I might wrap it up here, you guys. It's been over 2 hours. No, it's been 2 because we started late. Oh yeah, I got that one. Thank you, Andrew Knapp. Okay. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day. I hope you're wearing green. When you get older, time flies. It goes so much faster. Some of you know this. And so I have to celebrate. I can't just celebrate one day. So I've been wearing green all week. It's been fabulous. Yesterday at church, lots of people were wearing green. It was like real fun and festive mood. Like, yay. Like even the pastor was wearing green. It was so cool. So I hope you have fun tonight, whatever you choose to do. And I will see you on, I keep thinking today's a Friday because I'm going to a St. Patrick's Day show. It's not. It's Monday. I will see you on Wednesday. Oh, so here's what we're doing. So on Wednesday, we're doing our Christian panel at 6:00 Central, and we're going to have special guest Vic I always say it wrong. Minona. Damn it. I have practiced this name so many times. Vic Mignogna. We're going to have special guest Vic Mignogna, who I've interviewed before. We've had him on the panel before. He is a wonderful voice actor. And we're going to be reviewing the new animated movie that's coming out from Angel Studios. It's called King of Kings. Speaking of King of Kings. So let's see. King of Kings. It's going to be in theaters April 11th. Oh, well, okay. We'll try and not do too many spoilers then. We'll just mostly talk about what we liked about it and what we didn't. But this is going to be coming out April 11th for Easter. It's called King of Kings. It's an animated movie. And that's what we're talking about on Wednesday. It'll be me, Brahma Bull, Michelle from Force of Light, and Odin from OMB Reviews, and special guest Vic Mignogna. Okay, guys. I will I'll talk to you later. I'll see you on Wednesday. Have a good holiday. Bye. Bye-bye.